as a business owner, everyone, whether you're opening a cookie shop or a hair salon, you didn't go to school necessarily to start a business. So it's like, now I need to do this marketing. There's all these things that you just don't know how to do.
Ryan Shell started in radio, took his radio career into a marketing and sales role at several different companies. You started a company called The Home Tee, a t-shirt brand. You sold $1 million worth of t-shirts in the first year of business, and getting the brand on Shark Tank.
Sharks. My name is Ryan Shell.
The old agency model, you didn't really know if a billboard was driving sales. Well, now you know if a Facebook ad is generating return. So Ryan, I remember you and I having conversations with agencies. Okay, we're going to be paying you $4,000 a month. If I pay you $4,000 a month, will you make me $4,000 more in sales than I was making before?
Well, I mean, it goes back to, cash. Let's put all our money in that one person. You may get a lot of likes and impressions, and you can put something out there and people like it, but there's a big difference in liking and buying.
I want short answers from both of you. You have one platform to grow revenue in a business in 2024. If you could only pick one that you think is moving the needle the most.
Meta right now.
Email or text?
Email.
Oh,
Really?
We got a battle here.
Welcome to The Millionaire Hairstylist, where our mission is to improve the financial well-being of hairstylists and creative professionals. Our topic today is why marketing agencies usually suck and what to do about it. And our guest to help us navigate this conversation is Ryan Shell, who is the founder and owner of a marketing agency called Hey Frankie. You'll hear more in just a bit about what they do and his backstory. But I will say this, Ryan is someone that I know from personal experience is more adept than almost anyone else I've ever met at using the internet, Facebook, Instagram, email, text messaging to move products and sales online. So it's always nice when you're having a conversation about marketing to do it with someone that knows from personal experience building his own businesses. You'll hear about the one that he got on Shark Tank, how to use the internet to drive demand for your product or service. This is a conversation I know will be useful to you as you do the same in 2024. Let's get right into it. Okay, so let's see if I get this straight. So Ryan Shell started, I'm gonna miss a few details here, but tell me if this is correct. Ryan Shell started in radio once upon a time, took his radio career into a marketing and sales role at several different companies, but ultimately led him to working in New York City, where he then got a job at one of the largest PR firms in the world, helping with the PR and the social and the marketing strategies for some of the largest brands in the world, Dr. Pepper, Snapple, IBM.
He also just hated that job, by the way.
Hated that job, but that job was good for one reason. Which is that is where he met me. And we worked together at the agency. And while we were doing that, you started a company called The Home Tee, a t-shirt brand, started out of your one bedroom apartment with your then fiance, I think.
Yeah.
And wife had this brilliant idea for a t-shirt, started selling it. This is like such an entrepreneurial story.
It wasn't brilliant. It was an okay idea that freaked my father-in-law out. That was like, absolutely, you never quit your job and try to make this a company.
He was so against it. He thought it was the stupidest thing. And of course, you were in that approval period that all fiancés are in and boyfriends. So you were not putting points on the board.
No.
And but you sold $1 million worth of t-shirts in the first year of business. So you were doing something right.
Yeah.
And ultimately led to you leaving the agency and getting the brand on Shark Tank. That blew up The Home Tee. And I was the first person you hired. We worked together for 2.5 years, traveling around the country. Insane. I was what?
You must have been insane coming to work for me.
I was looking for a change. This was the beginning of a journey that ultimately led to me scrounging around on film sets. So this was the high point in my story. I'm in the low part now, but at some point I'll come back around. We spent the next 2.5 years selling t-shirts, and then you moved the business to Charlotte, North Carolina. And at a certain point, Ryan, I think you just realized that there were very few companies in the world that could provide really good, tactile, ROI-focused marketing for small and medium-sized businesses around the world, around the country. And you started an agency called Hey Frankie. How did I do on the story so far? Are we caught up?
Except I would add in that I, along the way in that journey, realized that most agencies just absolutely suck. And
let's start there. What happens? Isn't this the thing? I mean, Cash, you've experienced this. I remember when I was there with you, Ryan, we were experiencing this. Every business owner does this thing where they make a company, it achieves some level of success, and they think, I need someone to help me with marketing. And then what happens, Ryan? What was your version of that story?
As a business owner, everyone, whether you're opening a cookie shop or a hair salon, you didn't go to school. Like, you went to school to cut hair. You didn't go to school necessarily to start a business. So it's like, now I need to do this marketing thing, or I need to do this finance thing. There's all these things that you just don't know how to do. So obviously people like to sell widgets. You like to get butts in chairs, whatever it may be. So you need to market. And as we go out and we fill the gaps for areas that we're just not familiar with, you end up in the world of agencies. And I remember, I mean, Jordan, as you were talking about the home tee in that first year of $1 million, I mean, the backstory is I said, I have this goal of selling $1 million worth of t-shirts. And at the time, they were X price. And I remember 1 million divided by X, I had to sell, it was like 24,000 t-shirts. And I would go through and I would track this on a weekly basis. And we got to a point where we were too big for small agencies and we were too small for the big agencies. But, eventually you would take the risk on the big agency or whatever. And you get this great sales pitch. And then you get handed off the freaking, an account led by intern Nick, and who's probably out of college, never paid his water bill. And you go from that great sales pitch experience to just a completely abysmal performance experience. And you're locked into a contract and they expect you to keep paying, really high bills. But by the way, my performance is sucking. That's fundamentally how you go out of business. Pay high bills, low revenue. The math just doesn't work. And I have these various experiences over and over and over again. It's like, there's just got to be a better way to do this. And, at Hey Frankie, we are in no way, shape, or form perfect. But I think we do a really damn good job at securing revenue and driving performance. And in the instances where we have what I would say failed for a client, there may be personality issues, there may be product issues, because I can get people to your site. I can't make them physically buy your product. But I don't think there's any client that we have ever lost that would look back and say, and I hope this is the case, they would say, hey, they didn't try really hard for me. And that's what I want to make sure I do and my team does, is that we're always just busting our tail. What can we do to drive the revenue and move the needle for the client? And at the end of the day, I mean, you just need to care. It's like, that seems obnoxiously simple to say. And as I think about my personal agency experiences, I think back, I'm like, did they just not care? Did they have too many clients? Like, what? This is not rocket science. What's the problem?
Well, Ryan, you brought up a really good point. A really good point. There's so many people who are like, gosh, marketing sucks. I suck at marketing. Let me hire this agency. And then that agency sucks. And the first question you do have to ask yourself is, do you have a good product and that can actually sell, right? Because no agency and no marketing effort can sell garbage.
That's where it goes back to the agency side, though. Like I literally was just having this experience yesterday with a client. They have a great product, but they currently have an offer that I'm personally finding to be a little challenging. And they're a newer client. There's some gray areas that we didn't have involvement with. And, I said to the client, is there an offer issue in this case, a product level issue that we may need to revisit, because you did X last year that worked a lot better than you're doing this year. And sometimes you have to have the hard conversations. And this is when, as I was thinking about this conversation, I started thinking about back in the PR days. And Jordan can attest to this. Sometimes you may be working with an individual that's very high up in a company, someone that has, quote, authority. And as the PR dude, you've got to tell them what to do. You've got to fix their hair. Like, there's certain things you just have to take initiative and not be scared of people. And I think those lessons from back, 9 lives ago help me address clients of all shapes and sizes these days. Just because people are people, and it's not like you're the CEO of a big company or a small company. And you just have to be willing to, I think, put yourself on the line to give people guidance. Sorry for the tangent there.
No, I think that's a very good business lesson. Being willing to have hard conversations is really important. When it comes to your experience with agencies, I had the same experience. So I just want to commiserate here for a second and be like, yeah, I went and tried. I think I spent $160,000 on agencies in 1 year. And I went from I won't name them, from LA to New York to trying the biggest agencies out there. Then I was like, maybe it's the big agencies. Maybe it's I just need more hands-on and a smaller person. Maybe it's an individual. Maybe I can teach someone, what I'm doing and the results I'm getting. And then maybe they can kind of combine what they do and make it. Oh my gosh, it is one of the toughest things to accomplish. And I think you're totally right. I experienced the same exact thing. Literally 0 major agencies seemed to give a crap about performance. They were like money managers almost. It's just let's just put more companies under our wing, charge them fees, and if results happen, cool. But most business owners don't know what the hell's going on, right? There's so many business owners that like.
But Cash, isn't it a wonderful model if you could sit a person down in a salon chair, cut their hair? It'd be a bad haircut, but you got them locked in for 12 more haircuts, and they got to keep paying your bill no matter if they hate it or not. I mean, that is the agency model, and that's why we started Hey Frankie with no agreements, like month to month, cool, and then as the business owner and me gets a little more educated, month to month for a variety of reasons does have some negative impact. So we landed on, which right now is where I think is fair, is a 3-month rolling agreement, because I hate annual agreements because those are like cell phone contracts and I don't think anyone really likes those. So we have just a 3-month agreement, and it was really on the design side of some of what we do because I had to protect myself and my team, because you don't want someone to come in and really take advantage of 1 month's service and you do a lot of work, which you can actually, on the front side, you can lose some money. So I determined that 3 months was pretty fair for us and clients. And I've had zero pushback on that. There's so many times I talk to people and they're like, so, we should, maybe in a month and a half, we should start seeing some type of, change. No, just,
I get the same pitch. I get the same pitch from every agency.
Just no, it should be within the first week. You should see some level of action coming out of someone, whether it's on the email side, SMS, paid social. You need to see movement. Like I can open up probably 90% of Facebook ad accounts and say, look, your campaign structure is wrong. You're targeting the wrong audiences. I can immediately save you money. And those are little things that should be able to be done. It just should not take the time. And if no one takes anything other than this away from this, don't buy into that. You got to go piss away money for a month and a half, 2 months before you see level 1 of results. That's just crap and is not how it should be.
If you are a creative professional who wants to improve your relationship with money, go to millionairehairstylistpodcast.com, create a free student account, and you can access an entire library of educational resources geared at improving your financial well-being, including a lesson on the 3 phases of wealth building for creative professionals. Go to millionairehairstylistpodcast.com and sign up today.
Now, here's something I have experienced on these platforms. So devil's advocate here. Massive budget changes, sudden budget changes in a seasoned account. So let's say I'm spending $2,000, a $2,000 a day budget in an account. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden someone says, hey, we're charging you off of ad spend. So we're going to bump to $8,000 a day. And then the algorithm has to adjust and find has to kind of reach a larger audience and then kind of understand and try to learn based on the new information that it's getting from that larger audience at that larger speed. I have noticed that some of these platforms, particularly Google and Facebook, can take time to adapt in seasoned accounts that have sort of like established a rhythm of spending. Has that been your experience? Or are you like, nope, we've got ways to completely get around that?
I mean, when we're dealing with budgets, it's typically the rule of thumb is you're increasing about 20%. So, if you're spending 1,000, you increase 20%. You would never go straight up 1,000, and I can have a story about this, but 1,000 to 2,000 in one day. Like that can mess things up. You can go back to learning phase and there's things of that nature. So that's where, again, no offense to anyone named Nick. And if your name is intern, if you are an intern and your name is Nick, sorry, but intern Nicks will make those throttled decisions. And that's where you need to be able to trust the people that are running your account.
Okay, so let's take it back a step, because I love that we're getting into this, but I just want to kind of reset a little bit and just talk about this life cycle and this experience that people go through. So let's start with what I think a lot of business owners experience. And I want to just call this out. There's a very clear similarity in my experience between the two people that we have here in this conversation, Cash Lawless, Ryan Shell, which is that you guys are both people that when you built your businesses, no one had ever taught you how to do marketing. You figured it out on your own. There was Ryan, when you were running Facebook ad campaigns for the home tee, this was new territory. When you were doing word of mouth marketing on social for the home tee and getting influencers to publish content, you were figuring this out on your own. And Cash, when you were building your motorcycle company, when you were figuring out how to buy real estate, these vanguard things you were doing ahead of the curve. And you can say, I was reading a book about it at the time, but that was like the one book that was out there. Let's be clear. So you guys both built these companies, learning how this was done and in the driver's seat. So before you even get to hiring the agency, I know that you have both gone through the experience of hiring the person. Okay, I need help to bring on a person that is going to replace me. And Ryan, I think I saw this happen with you, and Cash, I know this has happened with you, where you bring in a person and it's extremely difficult to figure out even just how to get a single person to take what you're doing and either make it better or keep it going without something going off the rails. Let me just start with you, Ryan. Why do you would you agree with that assessment of that quandary and that problem? And why do you think that is? And what have you done over the years? Because you've now built an agency, you have to duplicate yourself. What have you done to address that, just that basic marketing handoff quandary?
I think I've learned to not always hire for the talent, but I hire for the person and find someone that I really like. I want to enjoy them as a human being. Would I go to lunch with that person? If the answer is no, hard stop. And then are they teachable? There's no founder, unless it's just a 100% process-led business, that's going to be able to replicate themselves. And I'm in some very large, groups online where this is a problem until the end of the time. This is going to be a problem for founders. Unless it's just a strictly process-driven business, you're going to have this problem. So that's why I've bumped to hire for the person. Yeah, they need to be, have talents in the field that you're hiring them for. But if there are things that are missing, I would so much rather teach that person that I really believe in. And, Jordan, it's so comical that you're asking this question and you were the first hire. You were this dude that also worked at Ketchum. You had the job that I would have rather had. I was stuck in corporate communications and effing hated life. Like hated. I mean, I can't say hated enough. I mean, that is like, you think of like all the places I should be in life, and working in CorpCom, it was not it. And Jesus Christ. And then, you and I think it was the radio thing that brought us, a connection, and you always showed some level of curiosity. It seemed like you cared. Like, I'm just some dude in this not cool CorpCom job. And you would come and ask me questions. And then I start thinking, hey, this guy is curious. I feel like he cares about what I'm doing. So when it came time to have employee number one, who has cared about me? Who's a person that for whatever reason I trust? And that was you, man. And you and I had some highs and lows, and more highs than lows. I would freaking hire you today. I mean, I would hire you today for like 9 random jobs that you don't know how to do, because I believe that you would give me everything you've got.
Yeah. No, we had to get, and so okay, I love that answer, and thank you for that. And Cash, what has been your experience as far as, and I know you're still, I think, like you said, Brian, this problem doesn't go away. So Cash, what have you learned about, again, just that single person handoff when it comes to marketing and trying not to upset the apple cart of whatever system you've set up?
I haven't figured it out yet, but I think one thing that I've learned is there's 2 different types of transfers in the business experience that I have. There's informational and skill transfer, and then there's mindset transfer. And the mindset, we've talked about this, and my wife is going through it. She's a decade veteran investor, and she has transferred skills to other people, other employees, and those skills aren't performing at the same level that she does. And there's so many discoveries along the way that they are not thinking about those small things that she thinks about when she encounters a problem the way a general would who's seen 1,000 battles. And there's just some of that stuff that's process driven, like Ryan's saying, where you're looking at yourself and you're going, you don't even know why you're good at this. You've just done it so long, and you've iterated, and you develop these mindsets and this intuition about what you're doing. And what you're struggling to do is create framework and process that's transferable. And so the question that I'm trying to solve right now is, how do I get high performers? How do I extract what is a framework in their head that produces consistent results the way they think into a framework and a process that can be repeated by other people and change the way that they think about these encounters that they have in the business, the way that they make decisions when they see data. So that has been a huge struggle. And I think we've done that in a lot of different departments, but marketing is not one of them. I have not been able to extract those successful frameworks yet. And then Brian, I think you actually have done that fairly well, because you've got an agency and you've got people.
Well, I mean, one thing that I've done, so there's the home tea over here, then you have Hey Frankie over here. Since Hey Frankie started, I've always involved every employee in discussions about the home tea. We have even to like today, we have a 3-day-a-week creative kind of brainstorm meeting where we're coming up with designs. I'll talk about production. And I really try to take the team behind the scenes of the brand experience, because I think that's something that makes me different as an agency owner. And I want the team to also see, hey, there are highs and lows of running a business. And I think, I can't stress, we are not perfect. We're really damn good, but not perfect. And I think some of that has to go or to do with showing the team the transparency, even on the client side, when a graphic designer has no care in the world about something related to a client potentially, I still try to be transparent with the information so that people aren't siloed, because silos are really, really bad. And probably one thing that impact businesses a lot more than business owners would imagine.
That's an interesting point as far as information is concerned. Okay, so let's take this to the next level. So you try and hire the person, and then at a certain point, as we've said it earlier, we kind of touched on this, but I just want to kind of hit at it with a very specific perspective, and maybe I'll share the story as I experienced it. And Ryan, you and I had this experience. As a business owner, and Cash, you and I talk about this a lot, you have to hold every expense accountable to the return that it's generating for your business. Ryan and Cash, neither one of you ever put a dime into Facebook if it wasn't bringing back a quarter. And if it wasn't bringing back a quarter, wherever you're putting that dime, it either you test it however long it needs to be tested, and then you kill that dime and you find another place to put that dime. That is how you think. And you did that over and over again through every social campaign. I mean, Ryan, we were doing Pinterest when that was really big, and then at a certain point, the agency comes along and says, look, if you give us some of your dimes, we will manage this process for you. But I think the first thing, Ryan, that you and I noticed was the old agency model, the larger corporate sort of marketing model in a pre-internet era, was able to sort of hide behind the fact that if you wind the clock back 20 years, you didn't really know if a billboard was driving sales. Sales went up or sales went down. Well, now you know if a Facebook ad is generating return. You know if you're getting traffic to your website. You know if you're getting referral traffic from Pinterest because you put time and effort into influencer marketing on Pinterest. So when we could connect the dots between the activities you're doing in marketing and what they were generating for your business, suddenly there's a transparency that I don't think the legacy agencies were set up for, that suddenly they are now accountable to numbers they never learned how to actually pay attention to or manage, because they could always just sort of be like, well, you just give us money and your sales go up or down, and no one can really connect those dots. So Ryan, I remember you and I having conversations with agencies where it was, okay, we're going to be paying you $4,000 a month. And you would ask them this very simple question. And I'm curious if you remember this, where you'd say, okay, if I pay you $4,000 a month, will you make me $4,000 more in sales than I was making before?
Seems like a very simple thing to ask,
It's an important question to ask.
I literally, there are, just as a brand owner, this is, pre-Hey Frankie, some monumental things that I remember. Again, I feel like I've had 9 lives at this point, so some of the memories are fuzzy. But I was standing in the airport in St. Louis because we had a production facility in St. Louis, because that's what every business owner that lives in New York should do, is let's open a screen printing facility in St. Louis, because that makes sense. Anyway, another story there. And
that's a whole episode.
I'm on
the
this
podcast.
I'm on this call with this very large agency, and I'm going to make up the numbers here, but it's like, hey, we spent $50,000 last month. We go through performance. Hey, performance isn't really where we want it to be. The return is down, but hey, we think you should spend $20,000 more. And I remember saying to them, like, I'm just this what do I know? I'm no one, but I say, guys, if I just spent $50,000 and lost money, why are you possibly telling me to spend $20,000 more? Please educate me. I know nothing. How does that math make sense? And to sit there and listen to people say just dumb crap. I will never forget that experience. And just being like, I am a street smart guy to the core. I am not the world's best finance guy. I didn't go to a fancy school. Don't make money, but spend more. That just doesn't make sense. And I think, maybe that's one thing that business owners need to do. Like, when something just doesn't make sense, ask the questions. It's okay to ask the questions. Let someone enlighten you. Let them teach you their way of math that probably makes no sense whatsoever.
Cash, what thoughts do you have about the ROI of an agency?
Well, one, I want to just remember the time that I was that business owner who said, well, I have a lot of stuff on my plate. I have a lot going on. I'm super busy. So if you sound like you know what you're doing, I don't really need to understand it. Wow, that's a massive mistake. I think you do need to understand the ins and outs of your business as a founder and entrepreneur. And if you don't understand something, you need to get to the point of understanding it if you're going to put money behind that decision. If you're making money decisions about things you don't understand, you just all that's going to happen is just be prepared to lose that money 100%. You just have to be willing to lose all that money if you're going to make decisions about things you don't understand. So that's one. He's like, Ryan, you brought up that point where there's no school for this, to making these decisions and having these conversations. And what do I ask? And what should I know about marketing? I think that's critically important. You need to know if you're going to work with somebody or bring somebody in like this?
So let's say business owners, they go through 19 agencies and it's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to hire my PPC person, my paid social person, my email marketing person. Well, damn, now I got to learn how to manage these people. So it's the evolution of the business owner. Because let me tell you, not everyone is meant to be a CEO. Not everyone is a good man. Most people suck at managing people. Managing employees is a tough job. That alone could take you several years of business experience learning. So, and then like I would say, Cash, what do you know about email marketing? How much are you staying up to date on paid social ads? So you you've got your processes for the job, but you have to have your processes obviously for managing and measuring your people. It's a critical spot as the business evolves.
It is actually. So my first hire accidentally was, and I didn't at this time, I didn't have like a hiring strategy or an org chart with a 3-year plan for how I was going to build out this staff. But the first person I hired was somebody to help me hire. And that wound up being one of the best decisions. It was luck, 100% luck. One of the best decisions I made. So, and that person is the people manager for all people. So like we have GCs in the business, right? We have GMs in each business. So there's one primary person who manages the results of each business, kind of like a mini CEO without that $600K salary. And that all the GMs manage department heads. So you have a content director. We've got customer service director. You have all your departments at a certain point. They report to a GM. The GM reports then to Jacob, the COO, who's a COO over all of the companies. And so he's got about 6 direct reports. His people management skill was so lucky.
Incredible.
That it crippled me in my development of that skill because he's been around for so long now. And what Ryan's saying is absolutely right. There's about 2% of things that like the founder is actually like really, really good at. Everything else you're going to have to find somebody else to do. And to spend the time to find those people, train those people, manage their performance, their sick days, the HR stuff you have to deal with. It's like, I actually highly recommend making a hire. And sometimes this is like your high performing personal assistant, maybe, who helps you hire and manage. Because I don't know how I would do it otherwise. Ryan, you have any thoughts on like bringing people into the business like without a person like that?
I mean, as you're saying that, I was thinking about how I hire. And I think I should preface anything that anyone hears is like, if I say something smart that feels like it can inspire you in life, awesome. But I didn't go to school for this. I didn't have a parent mentor that does this. So like, for example, I hire graphic designers pretty frequently. And when I hire graphic designers, like I've got a job out right now that I think more than 1,000 people have applied. And I didn't hire a person that would come in and hire those people. What I've done, and I think this is, goes back to, hey, Frankie being a little different. Like, no one said, here's how you start a marketing agency, Ryan.
Right.
So I kind of figured things out along the way. And as I would put a job up on LinkedIn, for example, and then I get all the freaking emails and I got to go through all these applicants. I'm like, this is
it's a full-time job
for what I have. Like, exactly. So it would be bringing the right person, but I'm not big enough to say, hey, I need someone just to do HR. So I did, the Ryan Shell hack of life is I say, great, here's the job. Then, you're putting the job on LinkedIn. That was just doing my typing fingers, if you're wondering what that was. And so then it links to a Google form that has 10 questions on it. Name, first name, where you're located, blah, blah, blah. Link to your portfolio. That then goes to a spreadsheet. And then I don't care what your name is. I don't care where you live. I'm going to click your portfolio link. If I see something interesting, I'll keep looking. If I don't see something interesting, sorry, you're deleted from the sheet. I don't care what company you work for, anything. And that is literally how I hire graphic designers. I've evolved that now to say, basically, are you reading this questionnaire? Yes or no? Then the next question is, please give me a link to your portfolio. I need exact access. You're going to have 30
you follow
seconds.
Instructions?
Yeah. So there's the link. And then the next question is, I swear to God, this is the question. Do you understand the hiring manager is going to see your answer to the last question? You will have 30 seconds for him to see or her to see what you want them to see. And if they don't see anything, they are going to exit your page. And I think what people need to understand it's okay to do weird shit like that, man. Like do what works.
100% agree.
Qualify your people. Like if someone said like, hey, Ryan, how do you hire people? Everything I just said is probably insane to the average HR person. But you know what? The average HR person has someone paying their bills. I have to pay all the bills. I have to hire all the people. There's all the things that's on my back. So, I am the biggest fan of coloring outside the lines and just doing things differently. I mean, if I did everything like every other agency, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. I would probably suck like, hey, Frankie would suck.
If I colored inside the lines, that penny would suck. Ryan, I have a policy now when I hire editors. And that policy is, if you send me the first draft of something and it doesn't make me say, wow, you're probably not the right editor. Because, and this is I would apply this to all visual design or any creative skill. If that first draft is not like, oh, wow, that's great. It may need refinement. It may need to be honed in. It may need to be dialed in. But if what you get back is like, ugh, there is no fixing that. That is not a fixable creative person to have working for you as a freelancer, as an assistant, as an employee, however you're working with this person. If you don't say, wow, then move on to the next person, because a good creative mind will always give you something on that, even that first draft that makes you go, oh.
I told you about how I hire graphic designers. Before I get you on the phone, which would be Zoom, I'm going to send you an email. Hey, you've made it past the first round. We would like you to do a design test. Then I send the design test. If that design test doesn't, wow me, interest me in what, you don't even get the first 15-minute interview. Right. And the 15 minutes, I like so critical on that, because in 15 minutes, in 4 minutes, 3 minutes, I can understand, do I like the person? Is the person like, is there a vibe here? And I would encourage people like, that have traditional businesses, don't feel like you got to do these long interviews. Like you should be able in 10, 15 minutes, you should be able to gut check. How does this person feel? And if you're not getting that warm and bubbly inside, you probably need to move on.
Completely agree. Absolutely. I think we actually used to try, we tried implementing a non-emotional system where we avoided our gut and didn't listen to it, being like, oh, well, the data will say everything. But then it turned out that every person we were extremely excited about, after a series of efforts, by the way, we also have that screening process. At the end, if we were extremely excited about them, it was the right hire. So we were just like, do you excite us? Like with what you've shown us, with how you've handled the tests we've given you, with the aptitude tests that we've seen, with the voice message. So basically we have one grading system in hiring. Well, actually, I should probably start with the biggest mistake I made in hiring was settling and not listening to my gut. That was probably the biggest mistake I made in hiring. I always settled because I needed someone faster. Now I need someone to solve this. And I was like, the second biggest mistake I made in hiring was letting my business be someone else's playground. I'm not here to put your training wheels on. I'm here to hire great people who can deliver. Yeah, you're going to get experience. Yeah, you're going to grow, but this is not the playground that you're going to learn how to build a sandcastle. My career is not going to becoming your teacher, right? So we stopped hiring and trying to develop talent for low prices. Like that's what you do when you put out a super low price out there. Like don't be surprised that all the candidates suck when you're offering half of what a good pay rate is.
I don't want to live here in hiring land too long, because I have two marketing geniuses on this, and I really do have two marketing geniuses on this podcast, and I don't want to leave our audience without some tactical stuff here. So we're going to do a bit of a lightning round. I want short answers from both of you, and really to the point. So let's start with this. Desert Island 2024, Ryan Shell, you have one platform, and by that I mean Twitter, Facebook, Google, email, text, to build to grow revenue in a business in 2024. What is your Desert Island platform right now that you feel is if you could only pick one that you think is moving the needle the most?
If I was going to be conservative, I'd go Meta. If I want to really try my luck, I'll go TikTok.
Okay. Interesting answer. Cash, how about you?
Meta right now. So
that's Facebook for people that don't know what Meta is.
Yeah. So yes,
Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah. Facebook. I get multiple platforms of exposure, although it absolutely varies per audience. So having 5 businesses, the real estate person is less on Meta than they are searching to solve a problem. And the motorcycle parts shopper is more on Google, intentionally looking for a specific part that they need for their bike. So for each business, there's like a completely different audience that has a completely different intent. But right now, I'm getting the highest ROI on Facebook ads.
Can I tell
Ryan,
you why I said TikTok?
Please go ahead.
So I can give you two examples. First, I'll talk about Pickle Woman. This is a woman. I don't know her name. I don't know her brand name. I just know that she has sold t-shirt, sweatshirts on TikTok that have jars of pickles on the front of them. And I started noticing Pickle Woman. Like, TikTok will tell you how many units have been sold. So I'm like, oh, she sold 500 of these things. And I keep seeing her videos and it's like, oh, she sold 2,000 of these things. And then it's 6,000. And I'm like, what the hell's going on with Pickle Woman? So I start looking at the data. So she's using TikTok shops and she's selling through, obviously, and TikTok is continuing to push because TikTok is winning. They're getting, payments off of what she's selling as well. And so TikTok is pushing her. Next thing I know, she sold like 30,000 of these things. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Then I start diving a little deeper. She's tapped into the affiliate platform on TikTok. So she's got TikTok pushing her. She's selling through TikTok shops. And then she's got all these affiliate people that are getting kickbacks through the TikTok platform. And the next thing you know, within 2 months, she sold $1 million freaking or more dollars of this stupid sweatshirt, no offense, that has pickles on the front. And she is forever going to be known as Pickle Woman to me. And I've seen so many instances where things can take off on TikTok. Now, this disclaimer is TikTok is very hard. TikTok takes you got to make videos. You got to do silly crap on occasion. And it takes a lot of effort. You can also piss away a lot of money very quickly on TikTok. But when the rewards happen, they can be so big and they can be so fast. And I think Pickle Woman is the best example I can possibly think of.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Here is, don't become Pickle Woman. You want people to know your brand name. Now, the downside with Pickle Woman, okay? All right, here's the downside. She made a lot of money. She's sitting pretty. She probably got a new car. They got her hair done, whatever, all right? She has not created a brand. I don't know her brand. She has not captured an email address because TikTok doesn't pass those through to Shopify. She does not have the ability to continuously remarket outside of spending money. Now, granted, she has a follower account on TikTok. People are going to see videos, not at the scale that she's wanting. She can't take that from $1 million product to a $20 million brand. She's just not there. So, if I'm on that island, I'm going to go make some money on TikTok, but it's not going to be a 10-year brand that I'm building solely on that one platform.
In one of our businesses, we have finally reached the point where we feel like the next move has to be brand marketing. Brand presence, increasing brand presence. And so we are looking at the dream companies that we feel have done branding very well. Red Bull is at the top of that list for how they are extremely present, the strategies that they're using from sponsorships, how they are at every event, how they are in every gas station. It's their presence as a brand is like they're freaking omnipresent. And we have not started executing any branding strategies yet. We have a brand, yes, but we have not gone down any of these routes that have built really, really powerful brands like Harley Davidson is on that list as well. Are you guys as an agency doing brand marketing strategies or brand building stuff? And if you are, what are you guys tapping into?
I would not call us a branding agency. Can we do branding related advertising? Yes. But not to what I would call the activation level. And then I take, as you were saying that, Cash, Mike, if you've got a lump sum of money to put behind branding, and so let's say there's 10 motorcycle events, for example. Yeah, you can go to those 10 motorcycle events and spend a little bit of money and put a very small dent in it. Or you can pick that one event that maybe happens a couple times a year and put your money in that so that when people come away, it's like, wow, did you see brand X? And I think that's, from a guidance standpoint. And my one core example from this will be Jordan has been to this show with me, a trade show in Atlanta where there are thousands probably of vendors. You're just one peon amongst all these people. How do you stand out? So what we opted to do, we had a very good booth presence that evolved many times over the years, but we had one specific location where it's like, hey, you know what? We're going to make bags that have funny statements on it or that are actually our designs. And we're going to hand these bags out so that by the end of the show, you would see our blue branded bags, which matched our blue brand backdrop at the show. You'd start seeing them all around the show. And by the time you hand out 5,000 or 6,000 bags, it starts to have an impact. And, we didn't do that for every trade show, Cash. So it was very selective. This was our kind of big pinnacle show of the year that happened twice a year. And we did it like clockwork. And it would get to the point where, people would say, hey, do you have more of your bags? They were asking for them, or they would show up at the next year, the next season show, and they would be carrying the bag from the past show. So, that can be fun to do. But I would also say it goes under the really expensive column as well. Like if you think back to Red Bull, when you send a guy to space, when you do all the stuff that, it's a phenomenal expense to do. So I think from a small business standpoint, if I've got my, I can't think of a hair salon example right now, but really isolating the funds to specific events where you can pack a punch, because it's so easy. Like I've even thought about this from the Hey Frankie standpoint. Like there are trade shows that we were considering going, and I'm like, how can I possibly take my agency and go up against another agency that's charging enormous fees and has a $200,000 booth? How can I possibly compare with that? Why would I waste that? To me, it would be currently a waste of money to do.
So branding, marketing, or branding, advertising that's aligned with branding. I'm just really, really curious about building a powerful brand right now, because I think there is so much beyond that. Are you guys doing anything? Let's say you took trade shows as an example. Would you rather, as a marketer, let's do a would you rather. Would you rather spend $100,000 on a basket of influencers to build a brand and get that brand presence, get them in your shirts, basically sponsor them for a year to where your stuff is in their content? There's a contractual agreement that like if they make any content, you have to be in that picture, whatever. Or would you go for one big influencer that is speaking to that audience?
Oh, I definitely would spread it out. Definitely spread it out. So
why?
I was about to give a really dirty analogy that maybe somebody could think of.
Spread it out.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm going to tell you about the last influencer I paid as a brand standpoint. All right, paid this person $2,500. At the time, it felt like a lot of money. She sold two shirts. Okay, 2 shirts. So instead, if I found, and this is several years ago, and I had found people that every person gets $100 from an influencer standpoint, and I had an army of 300 of those people, or whatever the math would be, I've got a much better chance, because I just would not put all my eggs in that basket of that one person. In this example, she posted with a friend. The friend was also cute. She was wearing another t-shirt. Well, that takes attention away from what I was doing. Like there's just all these things that can happen. Like influencers are so tough. I would do something that I'm going to talk. This isn't from a motorcycle part standpoint, but I'm going to tell you something most people probably have never thought of, that are trying to do things for influencers, because we think, all right, we'll go to TikTok, Instagram, we'll find someone that's popular, blah, blah, blah. You send them a product. Maybe they make a video. Maybe it sucks. Maybe it doesn't. There are actors and actresses that Jordan probably has posted job ads for at some point. Was it backstage.com or something like that?
Yeah, we use Backstage.
And I've done this several times, where you go and you put a job out, and it's like, hey, I need a female actress. I want to send you a shirt. I want you to do this, and I want you to say why. I can't tell you how much better that works, man. Like it just, you get exactly what you want. And if someone's listening to this that is selling a product, I mean, I don't want to give away all my freaking secrets here, because it's a very cost-effective way to get UGC content. But I mean, it's so much.
What's
more
UGC for the audience? What does that mean?
User-generated content.
I see what you're saying. So you're saying if you're looking for grail, we would say grail content is a term Cash and I use. Like you want that hero content that really exemplifies the brand, but it doesn't feel like a professional photo shoot. You're saying sometimes it's better to just pay someone that you can select their aesthetic. You can select sort of what they're doing, tell them exactly what you want, rather than trying to get an influencer to create something that's going to build your brand in the way that you want.
Yeah. And Cashley, think of in the motorcycle world. I can't tell you as someone that's in that world. Let's say you spend that $100,000 and you got, Johnny motorcycle rider that you're sponsoring. Well, what if they do something stupid? They've already got your money. What if they go from awesome to not so awesome? Like all your eggs are in that one basket and you just pissed away all that money.
Let's go back to our lightning round. Cash, I'll start with you and then Ryan, I'll hit you with this one. Email or text marketing, if you had to pick one.
Text.
Ryan?
Email.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
we got a battle here.
Still gonna be the throwback, and I'll tell you a couple core reasons why. I'm going to use e-commerce, and let's say that we've got a pop-up collecting email and SMS. Traditionally, what happens now? You collect email first, you get SMS second.
Mm-hmm.
In a good pop-up type scenario. If the email pop-up is taking a conversion rate at 10%, the SMS rate is going to be about 5%. So I can get double the contact information by going after the email. With SMS, people typically traditionally are signing up for, hey, I just need that quick deal of the moment. So it's a more temporary contact that you're getting a hold of. SMS is an incredibly powerful tool, and it can make numbers on a website spike very quickly. But all I got to do is click stop or type stop to unsubscribe very quickly. So I still think email, while it is a more cluttered space, it's a more longevity is better there, and you're just going to capture more information because people, they're hesitant about giving out their phone numbers.
If you've been listening this long, I hope that means that this conversation with Ryan Shell has been helpful to you. If so, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you can get more exciting episodes like this one. We have many more in the pipeline. If you're interested in helping others find out about this podcast, leave us a review in the platform of your choice. It goes a long way. Thanks so much, and let's get back to the conversation with Ryan.
I don't disagree with any of that. I think for me and my personal experience with text message marketing is that I think from like text messages alone, we did $1.8 million. And then from email, it was like 260 grand or something. And so there could be something in the business where I'm failing at email marketing entirely. And that's probably the case. But what I think we've experienced is that while opt-in rates are much lower for phone numbers, which they are, and we do not ask for a phone number on pop-ups or first engagement relationships, we have experienced when we send out a text, we get massive spikes in revenue in a very short period of time by using scarcity and urgency. So for example, I got a text message from a company recently. It's a boot maker, and I've been waiting for a boot for a year, right? So I signed up for their text message because they posted on their website a picture of a blurry picture of the type of boot I was waiting for. And they said, something's coming soon, sign up to get an alert. And then I got an alert one morning. It says 100 pairs available. You have 30 minutes before they hit the site. And they sold out like the second they didn't, I don't even know if they reached the site. I could still never find them on the site. And like after I text messaged back, like there was like a text response if you want to buy them, right? And then they send you a link to purchase. I was shocked that they sold like, I think it was like $600,000 or something in like a crazy short period of time, 30 minutes through a text message. And it worked so well. We started trying that. And that scarcity and urgency of like, hey, you tease, you build hype, you show that pop-up to a lot of your traffic. And then what we did was we send out a text message that includes scarcity and urgency. This is a product that's only going to be available. There's a very limited amount and you're going to get access to it early. That has worked for us so well for product launches or like new variants coming out. And that's why I'm so like pro text, is because I feel like we tapped into something for text that we just haven't tapped into for email. So for me right now,
I think what you're saying is scarcity has an impact. The question I have for you is, did you ever buy the boots?
Yeah, I bought the boots. Yeah. I responded right away.
But let's be very clear. If there's anything I want people to know on this podcast is Cash always buys the boots.
I always buy the boots. I did buy the boots. I clicked that link immediately and checked out. But it was like,
okay, all right. So let's stay on track here. Ryan Shell, you work with a lot of businesses of varying sizes all over the world that do e-commerce with your agency. What's the number one most common mistake you find when you get inside their business and you're helping with their marketing? What are some of the low-hanging fruit mistakes you think are most commonly made by business owners when it comes to marketing?
I mean, it can be a tough question because, maybe I'm doing paid social for one, maybe I'm doing email for another. The first thing that came to mind was not knowing what direction they were heading in terms of, and I'm going to take you back to client number 2. Sorry, I got something in my eye there. Client number 2, I said, do you have a marketing calendar? And they said, yeah. They sent me a spreadsheet link.
Oh yeah.
And it's got like 7 rows and 19 different colors on it. And I'm like, okay, so you got some ideas, like, but you don't know, when are you sending this email? How many times are you promoting that new product? So that led to us developing what I call a strategy calendar. So if someone comes to me and says, hey, I want to do $1 million this month, I'm going to say, all right, how are we doing this? You're going to have some that come from organic. What promotions are we doing? What new products are coming out? Is there a holiday that you have a key offer centered around? Is there a collection that we're featuring? And you really try to work through, where is that money coming from? And that, I would say that's another, I'm not here to just sell, hey, Frankie, but it's a point of differentiation that across all the agencies that I ever worked with as a brand, no one ever stepped back and said, all right, where's the money coming from? So having that path of understanding where the revenue is coming from is very critical. And from there, Jordan, I would have to go down to,
of course,
I'll say this,
the specifics,
the trusting of the agency. There's two types of people that I've experienced. I trust the agency to the core. Everything that they're doing is going to be right, and they're going to take care of me. Then on the opposite side of that is, I hate all agencies. They're the scum of the earth, and all they do is lie. People typically fall in one of those. Like, I just had a new client that we started with. It's a really fantastic client, stoked that we got this account. And for anyone that is listening, there are 3 types of website abandoned emails that can be sent. So Jane Doe goes to a site and she looks at a shirt. Okay. She just looks at it. And maybe we're assuming that I already have her email address. She looks at the shirt. She clicks nothing. I can send an email called a browse abandoned email from that. But let's say instead of just looking, she clicks add to cart. I call this window shopping. Females are notorious with doing it. It's kind of like walking down Fifth Avenue. You're looking at the Bergdorf's window or whatever it may be. Window shopping is add to cart. But she doesn't make it to checkout. I can send an abandoned cart email for add to cart. Third stage, most common, I get to checkout. I start completing it. I got to pee. My kids, hollering at whatever it is. And then I abandon on the checkout. Each of those 3 stages, I can send a different stage of an email. So this brand, the person is very smart. I start looking around the email account with my team and I'm like, she's got browse abandoned. She's got add to cart abandoned. She doesn't have a checkout abandoned. What the hell's going on? It was to the point where we were like, this is such an obvious miss that this business and the other agency did not put in play, that I was like, what are we missing? This can't possibly be. And as of right now, it's been up for less than 6 days. And it's already generated $9,500 just by fixing this one little mistake. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that, to me, that's a lot of money.
But Ryan's, you're dead on, man. You're dead on, because at a certain point, the marketing with, like, you've got text message, you've got SEO efforts, you've got Google ads, you've got different campaign structures, you've got PPC, you've got social media. There's so many different things, right? And then you're all trying to push those into the top of your funnels if you're organized. And in those funnels, you have to lead that customer down a very strategic journey. And the amount of mistakes that can be made along that journey, like, I'll bet every single customer, I would bet money on this, every single customer that you take on, you have one glaringly obvious amateur mistake being made, even if they're a sophisticated business that you're like, bam, can turn the knob on that right now. And because you guys are watching and you've systemized and organized, like, what these little strategies and steps that customer should be walking through, I think it's very difficult for a founder, owner, small business to watch all that.
Yeah. And the other component of that is, my wife is a therapist, and which is a whole nother podcast. She's amazing, but a whole nother part. But, one thing that she's sort of helped me adopt is, like, being constantly curious. And when we're running a business, sometimes we get so ingrained in just we're being the business, and we don't have that bandwidth to stop and say, hey, what happens if I did this? So that the level of and that's part of, like, if I don't have like a formal sales pitch, but what I tell potential clients is, like, look, we're constantly curious. What's around the next corner? What happens if we do X versus Y? And that goes into testing and kind of the methodical nature in which we test things. But being constantly curious is, from a business standpoint, my perspective, is super important.
Okay. So before we go, because Ryan, I want to be respectful of your time. We're going to play a scenario here where one of our listeners has been listening to all of this and they say, wow, there's some really great advice there. But I also feel like, look, I'm really good at doing hair. I run a great salon. I'm good at managing people. Maybe they're checking off a lot of these boxes, but they say, I really need help with my marketing. And there's a few little agencies in my market that work with small businesses. And I want to talk to them. And I want to have a conversation. I'm going to hire somebody. And I think I can probably find the right one if I do my homework. So Ryan, I want you to sit in on that meeting and I want you to pretend you're that business owner. What are like the 3 questions that you want to ask and the answers you want to hear from that agency? They're going to help you as that business owner decide, you know what? Most agencies suck, but I found a good one and I'm going to hire them. What are you looking for? What are the markers?
One of the first questions is going to be, and I'm going to come to the table with something beyond just my 3 questions, but the first question I'm going to say is, what are you going to do to help me drive revenue? And then how are we going to impact, your actions to drive that revenue? And then I'm going to come to them and I'm going to say, hey, so, I've got this great hair salon. I'm really excellent at what I'm doing. And I've partnered with these 3 local people that have a decent social following. And they talk about, Charlotte, North Carolina, where I live, and they've got great hair. So here's these 3 videos I did, and they're going to post them on their social. What are you going to do with this content to also help me make money? What are you going to do to amplify this? Because that is going back to Cash's brand question. It's going to start helping build my brand when these 3 people post it. But then as people in the local area start to see, hey, there's this popular person that went over here to Ryan's hair salon and got Ryan to do, the color or whatever it was, that's how we're going to start building that brand locally. And I would probably, those would be my 2 most important questions. And then it would go to, hey, this sales pitch is amazing, but who the fuck's actually going to be working on my account?
Make sure you say it just like that too.
Maybe that should be the first question. Because then get out of my way.
I want to make sure I want to make sure I understand this right here. So you're sitting down with an agency. You're trying to decide if this is worth $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month. The first question, the most important question that you have to be asking is, what are you going to get me for my money? What are you going to do to drive my bottom line? If I'm spending money with you, how am I getting that money back? The second question you're asking is, what are you doing to elevate the existing things that are already happening in my ecosystem? Every salon has an Instagram account. Every salon has the local pretty girl who has 30,000 followers on Instagram coming through and getting their hair cut. So how are you going to help me? And stylists are always taking pictures of their clients. It's a very common thing to do. So how are you going to help me take that content and elevate that content, elevate anything else that's happening so that my brand is omnipresent in my market? And then 3 is, who am I going to be dealing with on a day-to-day basis? The pitch is great, but who's the person who's going to be in the trenches and actually helping me run this? Is that a fair summation of what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Cash, are there any questions you would ask if you're in this situation, in this scenario?
One thing I can say though that would be important to me would be the evidence of the person who is doing the work, the evidence of the results that they have produced for other people in my niche. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because what I've learned about agencies is that just because you can market a toothpaste company does not mean you can get me real estate deals. Just because you can,
I gotta tell you though, where I would disagree is, so I have clients that are in the beauty space, jewelry, home goods. I've got one client that does off-road vehicle parts, like they have like off-road racing vehicles. So a wide spectrum. And what I would say is, I don't care if you bring me, this ball. If this is a viable ball that people are going to want, I can sell this ball. So, a great agency is going to have the processes and be able to do it. The other thing that I want to think about, or just mention really quickly, because you've said this a couple times, like you just said, I think it was, that's out of my scope. I don't think a lot of business owners are able to say what you just said, because we all know everything, obviously. So to be at the point in your career or your business owner, life cycle to say, hey, I don't really know that. I think that's an important step. But Jordan, there's also adding on to your last question, what are the 2 or 3 questions I would ask? One question that I would not ask, and I flat out refuse to do this if people ask, is give me some references. Okay, let's think about this from a job standpoint. If I'm Johnny Ryan, and I'm applying for a job and Jordan says, can I have 3 professional references? I'm going to say, yeah, Jordan, let me give you 3 people that are going to say terrible things about me. It's just so stupid.
Right, not happening. Yeah.
It's just dumb, because what we're doing at that point is we want to feel good about our decision. We're not trusting our gut. We want to feel good, like, oh, there was this other big company that they got lucky for. Like, references to me are just so dumb.
Agreed.
Is there
We don't do
something,
them.
Cash, I completely agree with what you said earlier. You need receipts. Ryan, if references you feel can be gamed, because that's basically what you're saying, is like they're going to give you the people that are going to say nice things. They're not going to give you the phone numbers of the last 3 clients that fired said agency. What receipts do you look for? Because obviously you want to do your homework. You want to feel like you're not just taking at face value.
So thinking from the client side, how'd that conversation feel? And then number 2, if I'm going to use email marketing as the example, but let's say, Jordan, you're the potential client and I'm the agency guy. So Jordan, we're going to have a conversation and then I'm going to go away and say, hey, I'm going to provide you an audit, Jordan, of your account. You're going to have to step back and, this is where that gut feeling goes. How'd that initial conversation feel? And then 2, the information that they are concretely providing about my specific account and how it exists right now. How does that feel to me? And if it feels legit, go that way. Because you can quickly see, like, I can look at an account and see, is the feedback that I'm providing, does it feel like fluff or does it feel like there's actual dollars to be gained? And I think that's one of the most concrete ways that people can make decisions, because anyone can say, I've got this beautiful case study. And one thing that so many brand owners get wrapped up in is they'll see a case study or referral, whatever it may be, from, someone that worked from some other big brand. Well, let's just say BMW, for example. BMW is going to sell cars regardless if they're running Facebook ads. Like, it's just like, great, you ran paid social for BMW. How many freaking cars did you actually sell? And most people aren't going to be able to answer that question. So it's just so important not to be influenced by the wrong thing.
Right. By the elements of the conversation that they can game to impress you. And by the way, that is an aspect, Ryan, just to close the loop on the agency conversation. A lot of these agencies are founded, the smaller agencies are founded by people who worked at larger agencies, ran large accounts, have these big marquee logos on their wall, and then they start the smaller agency and they come in and say, and we used to have these conversations when we were hiring for the home team, hiring agencies, and it was, well, we did marketing for big brands, and it's like, oh, and that's why you're going to help me move t-shirts. And quite often it was like, no, actually you didn't. You were a cog in a very large machine for which you are not able to now replicate those results.
Hey, Jordan, if I can really quick,
by all means,
can I just tell one story about failure? It's related to branding, getting attention, and failure. And Mr. Drake here was actually involved in this. So we would go to the trade show that I was referencing where we're handing out these bags, right? Beautiful blue bags. I still have some. They were great. And there was this kind of secondhand store in New York City that would have this truck that it would always drive around. It would have this elephant on the back of this truck. And I'm walking down the sidewalk in New York one day and I'm like, wouldn't it be funny if we got a elephant and took it to the trade show, like a fiberglass yard type elephant, probably 5 feet tall.
It's huge. By the way, you can sit on it. It's gigantic.
Jordan did sit on it. And by the way, let's paint it pink, because who's not going to see a pink elephant at this trade show booth? Because this would be a brilliant idea. So we take this stupid elephant to this trade show, and Cash, let me just guess, okay? Or I want you to guess. How many people said something about the elephant out of the 4 or 5 day trade show? How many do you think?
I don't know the size of the trade show.
I'll tell you, dude, it was 0. Not one person mentioned the elephant. Not
it
one
was
person.
bizarre.
You want to talk about the elephant in the room type situation? It was so weird that my biggest accomplishment from that show was selling the elephant. Literally sold the elephant.
That's true.
That trade show.
You found someone who's like, I love that elephant. You're like, you want to buy it? I don't want to bring it back next year.
Yeah.
So when it go, the branding concept is so interesting because you can do things that are so outlandish and weird that they just don't hit home and they don't get you the attention that you thought you were going to.
Okay, actually, I'm so sorry. I'm going to bring this. I'm really going to bring this home, guys. Did you all see recently? This is my attempt at creating an Instagram reel in one clip. You ready? Recently, the CEO of the company that partnered with Snoop Dogg to announce on Twitter that he was giving up smoke. Did you see this? He said, I'm giving up smoke. And the internet went wild because they thought Snoop Dogg was saying that he was no longer going to smoke weed, when in fact what he was actually doing was a paid placement for a smokeless outdoor fire pit company where he was saying, I'm giving up smoke and therefore you should go buy this outdoor fire pit. The campaign was a massive, massive, massive success in as far as it got millions of impressions and people talking about it. It drove so few sales, they fired the CEO who authorized the campaign.
Wow. That's amazingly bad.
I would not.
But that's like that's the pink elephant.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it goes back to, cash. Let's put all our money in that one person, and you may get a lot of likes and impressions. And there's a big difference. And I learned this very long ago, especially in the t-shirt world, where, you can put something out there and people like it, but there's a big difference in liking and buying. And you have to be very critical and able to understand the difference of the two. Like, one's going to make you feel good, but the other is going to pay your bills. And I would rather my bills be paid than you making me feel good by just clicking like.
One thing you have to understand is there are a lot of vanity metrics out there that big agencies will throw in front of your face that mean absolutely nothing for your business. And I had to learn about that.
Show me the money.
Yeah, it all comes down to one thing. You have to be honest with yourself and your business and the goal. Take away money from your business and it's like taking air away. It's like it becomes the most important thing when you don't have it. And so you can have all these conversations about the impact of your business. Yes, you should have an impactful mission. Yes, you should be doing the right things with your business. Yes, you should be customer centric. Those are all yeses. But at the end of the day, if you are not getting a return, you're not serving people. If people out there aren't willing to give you their money, you're not doing anything for them. Until they're willing to give you their money, you're not serving people. For-profit businesses are an indicator of how well you are serving people and how well you're meeting their desires. I think it's when you look at that bottom line and that top line, those are important things.
I'm going to just add two quick things. My third question on the agency question, Jordan, that Cass just made come to mind would be something along the lines of, what do you do when things go south? What do you do when you're not driving the revenue? Because I think that's where, because even as the agency person or, agency, I'm going to probably go to a client and say, before they come to us, hey, things aren't going as expected, because I always want to be transparent with the client. And I want to say, hey, this is what we've tried. Maybe it worked, it didn't work. This is now where we're going to go, because I want the client along the way, especially when things aren't going as planned. I want them to have, information so they can make decisions, so they can also see, hey, the Hey Frankie team, they're really trying here. Just some things aren't really working for us. But knowing what's going to happen when things go wrong and having that pessimistic view, I think is so freaking important.
I love that. In fact, I want to ask a follow-up to that, Ryan. Let's sit you back on the opposite side of that seat. And Cash, I've watched go through this many times. And so there's an agency answer for Hey Frankie, but I'm a little less interested in that. I'm more interested in the business owner answer to this question. When the marketing efforts stop working, the algorithm changes. You hired an employee and all of a sudden the Facebook ads aren't returning the way they used to because something changed in the account and you don't know what. So Cash, let me start with you, and then Ryan, let's end with you, and then that we can take up no more of your afternoon. But Cash, like what have you learned to do when something was working, the dials were turning, the wheel was spinning, things were happening, and then something breaks? You had this happen more than once. So what is your model for how you address that to try and solve that problem? Obviously, every situation is different. But what's the mindset that you've developed over time for when something goes wrong?
I was in a long meeting today about this exact issue, putting a protocol in place for algorithm changes, environment changes, market changes. How do we more quickly diagnose and adapt and monitor what's not working? I think one, the way that we like to look at our businesses is through we like to look out the window. Someone needs to be watching where we're going and kind of casting the vision for where we're going, but someone also needs to look at the gauges. And if you don't have those gauges set up, then how can you possibly know what needs to change or has changed? So if you only look at like revenue or profit, it's like, well, what's generating that? Okay, so it all starts with traffic. No, it actually doesn't. It all starts with someone encountering your brand at a certain point. Well, where did they encounter your brand? So knowing what to measure in the business for us, and then putting those, we have a data engineer we work with that puts those into dashboards for us, so we can get as clear attribution and as clear a picture of reality as we possibly can with those gauges. And then we like to isolate testing, and we like to isolate the environment. So we can't control when Facebook or Google or all these algorithms make changes. Well, we can control how closely we monitor these things, and we can dive in the second these gauges start showing something different. And that's what are the things that you should measure? What are the KPIs in marketing? And I know that Ryan's got these down pat. Obviously, he's doing extremely well with this stuff. And then we've built out our own proprietary attribution dashboards because we can't trust any of the platforms. It's like the data is so.
When it comes to third-party platforms, you still need to understand how to digest and what to do with the data, because There's no data these days that's going to be 100% accurate. So you need, that's where you do need the right people that can say, hey, this is saying this ad performed really well, and then going to have the curiosity to go to, for example, Shopify and say, it's saying this was doing really well, but we only sold one. Like the math's not adding up. But then you have to go to, if you can also analyze and say, okay, revenue did go up, but the product in question that's in that ad isn't what we're actually selling. Because what you don't want to have is someone could easily say, well, this ad, we're seeing data that it's doing well, but we're not selling the product. Let's turn it off. But what if that ad is the thing that is making people curious to click through? So you have to have, this is where the A to Z understanding, intern Nick doesn't get it. Okay. Like if you just have to have the right people on the damn team. And at Hey Frankie, I like to tell people, I want to be an extension of your team. I don't want to be a vendor. I want to be your partner. I want to feel the wins and I want to feel the lows. And, to me, that's how I would want to be treated. And I'm just trying to create a scenario where that's exactly what we do with our clients.
I'm going to throw out there an answer to my own question. And I'm going to say this is something I watched you do, Ryan. And if you disagree with this, please let me know. I think one of the things that you did when marketing broke for whatever reason is act quickly. I think that you always, and I know that seems like a trite thing to say, but I think sometimes people do a kind of a wait and see, and these agencies always advocated for that. Well, let's give it a minute. Let's wait and see. And I think even going back to what you said earlier in this conversation, where it's like an agency should be able to move the needle within week one, like they can do something. You have to have that sense of urgency of like, don't let a month go by where Facebook generates no sales for you, but we're still trying to figure it out. Like the urgency around how you spend your money and what you get for your results and what you get for your time and your effort. Like if you don't have that, nobody else will as a business owner.
Yeah, that would literally, the concept of waiting a month would completely make me nuts. And I do have to say a couple of random things here. Maybe they get edited out. Who knows?
By all means.
Go back to Shark Tank. I think one thing we don't think about as business owners is sometimes you just get really damn lucky. And when you get lucky, that's where you need to hit the ground running and you need to understand what to do with it, because luck freaking runs out. And, as I think through my life and where I started and again, guys, I'm playing way above the deck of cards that I was dealt in life. And sometimes, if I'm feeling stressed or I'm irritable at home, I'll say to my wife, and I've said this a few times, of like, look, I am operating 10 levels above where I should in life. And sometimes I get very stressed out behind the scenes of, hey, there's just a lot of pressure that is coming down that, I'm just trying to figure out a lot of things at once. But, back to Shark Tank and taking risk and things. I had this day job, and Jordan, I don't even know if you know this. So you have 15 days of vacation or whatever the pathetic amount is. And I was like, there's a Shark Tank audition in Boston. I'm going to take a day off, but can I take that day? And it's really questionable. So I took this day off, Cash, and go to Boston. I was way underdressed. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I don't know, just the wrong socks, all the things. It was freezing cold outside. I'm outside in this line for 4 hours, to the point, had someone not let me sit in their car, I was going to leave that audition because I was so cold. So finally you get inside and you've been sitting there all morning, you're freezing, and you've got your 45 to 60 seconds to make this pitch. And then you turn around and walk off. You have no idea what's going to happen with that. Was it a complete colossal waste of time? And you're just left with this lingering, I don't know, kind of thing. But had I not taken the risk, like at some point as a business owner, we have to have that risk factor to do things that aren't just always freaking normal. And, taking that day off work, I probably wasn't going to get on that show. It's harder to get, they say that harder to get on Shark Tank than it is to Harvard. And then Cash, wow. I went on this trip. This is 9 months after I'd done the audition and all this jazz. I'm in Africa with my in-laws and my wife. And we get to Cape. We'd been in a desert that I can't think of the name of right now. Kalahari Desert, no cell service, nothing. And I get to Cape Town. It's like 10 o'clock at night and my phone's blowing up with voicemails. And it's like, hey, this is Jane Doe from, the production company for Shark Tank. Are you no longer interested in being on the show? And then I start going back through the messages and they're like, they're asking me if I want to come on the show. So I immediately called him, Cash, and I'm like, holy crap, I almost missed that opportunity. Like there are so many, this goes back to luck, and you have to understand with your luck, and you got to do something with your luck. And I'm going to tell you guys one last rambling story, and it has to do with people. And I'm not going to get all like woo la la, kumbaya, stories on you. But I think sometimes you hire the right people, and the right people are put in the world for a reason. And I'm going to give you a concrete example, and Jordan's going to eventually know where I'm going with this.
I know you're all right with this already.
I was in New York City maybe 2 months ago, Cash. And it was a very quick trip. I was there for about 30 hours, if that. And there were 2 or 3 people that I wanted to meet and see while I was there. And I didn't have the time to make it happen. So it happened to be very cold in the city this particular day. And I started in my hotel room, and I go down to the bottom floor, and I'm like, you know what? No one was there when the door opens. And I'm like, I forgot my gloves. So I was like, I need my gloves. I got to man up. I got to go back upstairs and get these gloves. So I go back upstairs, get my gloves, and I come downstairs, Cash, and the elevator doors open. And who the hell is standing right there? Jordan Drake, one of the 2 or 3 people that I wanted to meet. And I don't know what that hell that says about life, but I just know that Jordan is a guy that I'm here talking to you today because of Jordan. Jordan was the first employee that I hired. Jordan's a guy I would do damn near anything for except jump off a building or do something that's going to harm myself or my family. And Jordan was standing outside that elevator that day. And I just got to say, Jordan Drake, I'm so happy that you and I crossed paths, man. And the fact that you were outside that elevator, I don't know what it says about life and all the stuff you want to read into it. But the fact that you were there, dude, I was like, that guy's important.
Well, and let's finish the story. I was there helping produce a commercial for the hotel.
What are the odds that you would have been working at that hotel that I was?
I know. With a full camp, we had a camera crew, models, actors. You went upstairs to get your gloves, and you came back. You walked into a film set, basically, and I'm standing there, and you're
completely insane.
It was a good moment. Well, that's Ryan, amazing. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for all the things that you've shared with us, and I know from knowing our audience how much that they're going to appreciate that. So thank you so much.
Appreciate you having me on, guys.
All right. We'll talk to you very soon.
Bye, Ryan.
If you're a hairstylist, if you're a creative professional, and you are interested in your financial well-being, remember to like and subscribe so that more episodes just like this one show up in your YouTube feed.